Chapter 139 Destroyed Magic Treasure Fragment. As for the other magic techniques, the body concealment technique and sound transmission technique were auxiliary magic techniques similar to that of the Heaven's Eye technique. So long as one somewhat comprehended magic power, they were able to learn it. As a result, Han Li effortlessly mastered them. Among these, the sound transmission technique was a talisman technique that required a sound transmission talisman, which Han Li had seen being used several times. The body concealment technique was an extremely common magic technique. By attaching spiritual power to one's body, the body becomes enveloped in the environment's colors, causing people to have difficulty perceiving the user. This magic technique, however, holds little value because the Heaven's Eye technique can easily break through it. It fundamentally could not be used to escape the notice of other cultivators. The quicksand technique and freezing technique were magic techniques with areas of effect. The first used magic power to turn the earth in an area into sand. The other could freeze the water in an area into ice. The might of these two magic techniques depended entirely on the deepness of the magic power used and intention. If a deity were to put it to use, turning a 1,000 li of fertile land into desert and the Changjiang River into a glacier would not be impossible. The reason as to why they were classified as elementary low-grade magic techniques was only because these two magic techniques were quite easily learned. Even Qi condensation cultivators with few layers were able to easily master them. However, their magic power would be limited, and their range would be pathetically small. When Han Li originally practiced these two magic techniques, they were quite power-intensive. However, when he suddenly broke through to the 9th layer, his magic power rapidly increased, allowing him to use his magic techniques as he wished. He could already control an area the size of a tabletop and could turn it to sand or freeze it as he pleased, causing Han Li to be greatly excited. As for the remaining magic techniques, Han Li was unable to grasp them at the moment. He could only helplessly deliberate and study them later in the future. Because the Great South meeting was about to end, the amount of young cultivators that came to do business would reach its peak in its last 2 days. At this moment, Han Li was in the large business plaza that was crowded to the brim with 2,000 cultivators. The amount of vendor stalls were also several times greater than before. For the most part, they wished to grab onto this final opportunity and peddle their leftover goods. In addition, an unknown amount of higher-level cultivators that emerged from long cultivation began to appear one after another, also wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to observe those who could become formidable opponents. Han Li bitterly smiled. Although he had already entered the 9th layer, while he was walking amongst the crowd of cultivators, he discovered many people that were above the 9th layer. Currently, Han Li no longer had any spirit stones, and his medicine pills were few in number. Since he had no intention of getting rid of his treasures, he simply followed the stream of people from vendor stall to vendor stall. He went simply to hear other cultivators' comments and views on the trades of goods to further his experience and knowledge. Hearing others speak truly broadened Han Li's horizons, causing him to understand quite a bit about magic tools and materials. For example, magic darts that automatically pursued enemies, gourds that could shoot flames, long sabers capable of freezing people with a cut, silver-winged ant eggs that could be used to create medicine, scales of a 100-year-old iron-lined serpents that could be used to craft tools, and so on. The more Han Li heard, the more he felt fascinated. Han Li had arrived at the center of the plaza before he knew it. This won't do. I don't want what you're offering, give me something else in exchange. This is a destroyed magic treasure fragment. It is more than enough for your alms bowl. What use would I have for this ruined fragment? Could it be that you couldn't find a core formation expert to refine it? Don't think you can exchange it with my returning wind's alms bowl. The sound of an intense quarrel arrived from the front of a vendor's stall. Destroyed magic treasure fragment? Many people let out sounds of surprise, immediately causing nearby cultivators to stir a commotion. After a moment of chaos, the vendor's stall was surrounded by an impenetrable crowd. It should be known that magic treasures weren't something that low-level cultivators would even dare to dream about. However, one had unexpectedly appeared in the Great South Valley. Even if it were only a ruined fragment, it was still a marvel, causing these cultivators to become like cats smelling fish. The itch in their hearts was hardly tolerable. Where is it? Let me see. Is this the magic treasure? Click's tongue, it's truly beautiful. That's just a rag. Because Han Li was quite close to that vendor's stall and was already quite faster than common cultivators, he managed to rush in the crowd and obtain a good position, allowing him to clearly see everything. Looking at the vendor stall, Han Li saw a 27 to 28-year-old man standing in front of the stall. This man had dark skin and thick limbs. At first glance, one would think a farm peasant had snuck into the Great South Valley. However, those who looked at the man's magic power with the Heaven's Eye technique could not help but let out a breath of shock. This dark-skinned man was actually a great expert of the 10th layer. Competing against this person, isn't that courting death? A few cultivators inwardly weighed with surprise. They then brought their gaze toward the vendor stall's owner. The vendor seemed to be a common black-clothed man with the appearance of having magic power of only the 7th or 8th layer. However, when he confronted the man before him, his face didn't have the slightest expression of fear. There were a few that took notice of the embroidered tree leaf design on the vendor's collar. Only then did the cultivators realize that this person was a disciple of the well-known Yi clan of the Qinyi mountain range. It was no wonder he held such confidence. Between these two people on the stall was an oddly patterned yellow alms bowl and a small piece of translucent cloth. This item was like a rag, wrinkled with its rim ruined unevenly as if a dog had gnawed on it. The only aspect attracting attention was the twinkling white radiance that appeared occasionally. It was somewhat peculiar. This was the destroyed magic treasure fragment? After seeing this object, many people in the crowd were greatly disappointed. It was greatly inconsistent with what they imagined within their minds. This ruined magic treasure is quite wonderful. By using it to cover an item, it will immediately become invisible. Not only will its spiritual qi not leak out, but it also won't obstruct spiritual qi from entering. The dark man had a cold face. After this was said, he immediately took out small silver mouse from his sleeve. The grade 1 demon beast, gold eating mouse. The cultivators standing in a circle yelled out the name of the rat and caused a small uproar. He is truly worthy of being a 10th layer expert. He actually captured a grade 1 demonic beast. Many people could not help but think this. At this moment, the dark man picked up the cloth and wrapped it around the mouse. The result was miraculous. The silver mouse and the cloth immediately disappeared. Although many people used the Heaven's Eye technique, they weren't able to see anything. The man, having seen everyone's shock, was somewhat satisfied. Afterwards, the hand that held the white mouse wrapped in the cloth suddenly showed movement. Not just living animal, non-living items will also have the same effect. After this was said, the man took out a knife emitting a threatening spiritual qi and put it on the ground. Then he covered it in the cloth, causing it to disappear without a trace or even the slightest trace of spiritual qi. It is truly wonderful. It can make things invisible. Click's tongue. Inconceivable. Those who were watching around were discussing spiritedly. How about it? There is value in exchange it with your alms bowl. The man then took off the cloth and put away the knife. I will not exchange it. If I want something to be invisible, I only need to buy an elementary mid-grade vanishing talisman. For such a small thing, you would have me hide my head and legs? The vendor shook his head and said mockingly. Did I not tell you? This is a destroyed magic treasure fragment. It wasn't refined by a core formation expert but that of nascent soul. Those experts' levels are not the same. Who would be able to see through the efficacy of its concealment? How could a vanishing talisman compare to it? The dark man angrily said. You spout extravagant descriptions once more. I absolutely have no use for this thing, why would I want it? You had better give me 30 spirit stones or something of equivalent value for this alms bowl. The vendor coldly retorted.